Hello and welcome to Local 24 this week. I'm Richard Ransom. We are glad you're sharing part of your Sunday with us as we look into the real story behind the big stories. Before I introduce my panel, let's show you what's on our menu for today. As you'd expect, lots happening related to the pandemic. In a week when Shelby County hit a record number of hospitalizations, Shelby County's government decided to sue Tennessee's governor over his executive order, while taxpayers learned of a new cost from COVID, having to float millions of dollars to Regional 1 for its ICU. And we ended the week with a new health directive. Shelby County employers are being strongly encouraged now to require that their workers get vaccinated. Also, does the governor's handling of the pandemic make him vulnerable for re-election even in the deep red state of Tennessee? Some Democrats who announced their candidacies this week sure hope so. And go Tigers go. We can't let this week go by without addressing what was a banner week for the University of Memphis, particularly its athletic program, specifically its basketball program. All right, let me introduce my panel first. We're so happy to have everybody here. Our political analyst, Otis Sanford, Sam Hardiman, reporter for the Commercial Appeal, is here, and the Reverend Kenneth Whalum with the New Olivet Worship Center. Thanks all three of you for joining us. We want to start with this pandemic, and there was a lot of new developments today. Let's first talk about this health directive I mentioned in the introduction there, strongly encouraging employers to require that their workers get vaccinated. So we're extending this beyond just the healthcare system in Memphis and Shelby County. Otis, we're including everyone now, is what the health department wants anyway.
Oh, absolutely. And I figured we were going to get to this because certainly after the CDC, or the Food and Drug Administration really, gave full authority and full use to the vaccines, it was only a matter of time before agencies and governments and businesses and even schools will seek to require vaccinations. And that's what's happening here. The University of Memphis, where I work, the president is trying to do that. And so I'm not surprised to see the county strongly encourage employers to do this. I think you're going to see it happening a lot more going forward, Richard.
And let's show some of the numbers and stats that are perhaps behind this new directive. The first one I want to show you is a national map provided by the New York Times and Axios, which shows how cases are growing state by state, and the dark purple states that you're going to see here are having the worst trouble right now over the past 2 weeks anyway. And guess what? Tennessee, now #1 in the country with a 40% spike in new cases over the past 2 weeks. Interestingly enough, Arkansas, which has really been struggling, you can see is yellow, colored in yellow there, so they're actually perhaps through the worst of it, and they're seeing more of a, not as much growth as the other Mid-South states. Also, we want to show you new cases in Shelby County. The latest numbers there from the Shelby County Health Department show us creeping back up again. The number was 700 and something on Friday as we record this. This just came into me. We had several days there that were pretty good later in the week, but then we're still fighting a pretty high daily average because of the spike we saw in last weekend and early last week. And then we also have another graph to show you on hospitalizations, and this one may be the most concerning. We're only getting this data once a week now on Wednesdays. The health department's releasing it, but you can see we broke an all-time record for number of people right now hospitalized in the metro area with COVID-19 at 701 was the last count, or census as they call it, when they had to take stock of just how many hospital beds are committed to COVID patients. So Sam, I'll shoot this question to you. When you see all of this data, and it doesn't look good, we truly are maybe the hot spot in the nation right now. Do you feel that the leaders, the health experts are taking enough action to address this growing problem?
Richard, I think that is an excellent question, and I would maybe pose it back in the form of a question. We enacted in Shelby County a week ago today, we're filming this on a Friday, a mask mandate. We did that when our case rate in Shelby County was far higher than cities across the country who are also enacting mask mandates. And so I think the open question on my mind is would a mask mandate 2 to 3 weeks ago have blunted this pandemic a little more than where we are now?
Yeah.
And I think that the hospitalizations might, are probably the most troubling statistic there. And so it's a question of, did the mask mandate we put in place last Friday and more masking, because the mandate is nothing if people don't follow it, more masking, is that going to slow down the hospitalization growth or hospitals actually going to become overwhelmed, which is a very, very real possibility.
Yeah, and some of the reports we're getting suggest that depending on what hour you stop by some of these hospitals, they are already overwhelmed. So the county is taking some action, at least County Mayor Lee Harris suing Governor Bill Lee over his executive order allowing parents to opt out of a mask mandate. They're taking this to federal court. They're asking for a temporary restraining order, calling the executive order, the quote I liked here was, an action that shocks the conscience. Otis, what do you, let me go to Ken on this one first. Is it time or past time for this kind of thing to take place to help give a little more teeth to some of the executive orders that have been coming out or fighting those executive orders?
You know, I said a couple of weeks ago, Richard, that I was looking for some lawsuits to be filed. I think that this is a good move, especially to file a constitutional lawsuit based on the 14th Amendment. And the county is taking the position that our children are being deprived of their property, in this case, the property being the right to be healthy. They're having that taken away from them without due process. I think the constitutional angle is going to draw a lot of eyes and a lot of attention to Memphis and Shelby County. And as I said earlier, I think this is something that is needed and that will bring us out of a political discussion and out of a personal physical health discussion into a constitutional right discussion, which is the right to be healthy. I think it's a very, very good move to file the lawsuit. I just hate it took this long to get it filed.
Otis, do you think it's a sound lawsuit? Does it have a chance in court?
Oh, absolutely I do. And I think Ken just hit the nail right on the head here. What they are arguing in a federal court, I mean, they are making this a constitutional issue in federal court under that 14th Amendment, which is what they're trying to do. There is some precedent here. Just recently, on Friday, a judge in Florida overturned the ban on mask mandates in schools that Governor Ron DeSantis imposed. And DeSantis and Governor Lee have been sort of in lockstep here in trying to prevent schools from doing mask mandates. So yes, I think this is absolutely has some possibilities, strong possibilities in court. You know, the governor has had a bad time here, Richard. There's been mixed messages all over the place. His own state health department said just this past week that masks are the most effective way to cut down on the spread of the virus in schools. So, I mean, that flies in the face of his executive order number 84 from the prior week. And so, yes, to answer your question, I think this lawsuit has an absolute good chance of going forward, at the very least as a temporary restraining order or a temporary injunction. And Ken was spot on about the reasons for doing so.
And let's not forget, go ahead.
Richard, the only concern I have about federal lawsuits is the length of time that it takes to get them heard. But in this case, I think we can submit the necessity for an emergency hearing, and this thing might go to the United States Supreme Court, Richard.
And it could, but again, you can go in and immediately get a temporary restraining order that stops it all in its tracks, and then they have a full hearing later on. So yes, that's a strong possibility depending on which judge they have and his or her inclinations on this.
Sam, you care to add to this? Any reporting you care to add on this particular case?
Yeah,
and where it's
reading the lawsuit today, one thing that I'll point out to Otis's point a minute ago is Governor Lee said this week, he was quoted in the Associated Press, the article is attached to the complaint, saying that masks will help stop the spread of COVID. And so what the governor has done here is a little different than what happened in Florida. Ron DeSantis in Florida banned mask mandates in schools. The governor has said, oh, you can have a mask mandate in a school, but I'm just going to give the citizenry the ability to opt out of it. And so it's a little more subtle legally what he's done. But at the same time, if a temporary restraining order is granted, I have no idea if one will be, that could be just enough to have more masking in schools, which could lower transmission. We're talking about a factor of days here, guys.
Right.
Yeah.
More masking and more people wearing masks can drive down infection rate, and thus maybe the pandemic and the worst of the storm passes.
And
We're
let's
not
not
talking about permanency.
Right, and let's not forget a lot of the people who are getting the virus are those who can't protect themselves against it. Pediatric cases are now 32% of all cases in Shelby County, the highest ever. There are 450 cases right now of children who have the virus, and we have school closures all over the place as schools try to deal with this because we can't do virtual learning, so we've got to close schools and not do any learning in order to try and combat the outbreaks that take place. One last thing, and I had this back in the booth, I had this in the second segment, but I want to move it up. The quote from Dr. James Downing, CEO of St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, who has written a public letter that's going to be published in all the big newspapers around the state of Tennessee. And I just think it's incredibly powerful what he wrote. He says, as a physician, scientist, and president and CEO of St. Jude, and keep in mind, St. Jude does not get involved in this kind of thing, hardly ever. I am compelled to speak up for evidence-based medicine, science, and the future of our children. The data is clear. COVID-19 is raging across communities, and we have the means to stop it now. Protesting mask mandates puts an agenda before children's health. This stance is not rational. Stop the arguments and the protests, stand up as a community, and do what's right to protect our children. Amen. If I could have an applause, I would. The message there is so, like I said, St. Jude does not stays clear of political type things all the time. They rarely do something like this. And I just wonder, when they write the history of this thing, years to come, the irony that the world's leading children's hospital CEO, located in Memphis, Tennessee, had to write this letter because so many children in the same city are getting this virus. It's just incredible to me. Ken, why don't you take this?
Here's another irony and a deep paradox, Richard, for the governor of the state of Tennessee to be saying that he's giving parents the right to decide. In other words, the right to free speech. And yet that same extension of a so-called right is depriving those parents' children of the right to be healthy. That's one of the reasons I love the law, man. There's so many nuances, and now we get the CEO of St. Jude to come into the picture. I'm looking forward to this thing going to the United States Supreme Court, man.
Very interesting. We're going to take a break right here because Otis alluded to it. The impact on Governor Bill Lee's career. A couple of Democrats entering the gubernatorial race this week, thinking that COVID may give them a shot in this deep red state. We're going to talk about that in just a moment.
A wise man once said nothing was certain except death and taxes. Well, add college football to the list because DraftKings Sportsbook's latest offer is a sure thing. New customers bet at least $1 on college football and get $200 in return, no matter what. So death, taxes, and $200 to ring in college football season. Download the app now. Sign up with the promo code. Bet $1 to get 2 Ben Franklins. See what we did there? And make it rain.
Need cash? TitleMax offers 2 ways to get it. Get cash using your car title. Go to TitleMax.com, enter the car year, make, model. See how much you can get. TitleMax also offers an unsecured loan. No title required. Check out TitleMax.com when you need more cash. Check out TitleMax.com and shop us for rates. Get up to $2,500 without a car title, or up to $6,500 using your car title. And you'll say, I got my title back with TitleMax.
Get your title back with TitleMax.
We're never gonna stop fighting to protect the world from people like you.
Let's get him. And this time, no holding back.
I'll get my stuff!
We can be stronger together.
Power up with Stargirl and Supergirl, Tuesdays starting at 8/7 Central.
All clear!
Daily Blast Live is kicking off our 5th year, and we're not slowing down.
DBL moves to 11:30 starting September 27th.
Now that Tennessee has the distinction of being the top state in the country when it comes to growth of COVID cases, are there any political ramifications, especially for the man in charge, Governor Bill Lee? He's got 2 Democrats who have decided to run against him, and they both plan to run on the COVID issue. Probably the best known, or at least the best funded of the 2 is Dr. Jason Martin. He is a Nashville critical care specialist. He says that he's already raised $100,000 for his campaign, and also Minister Casey Nicholson from Greenville is running as well. I know this is just a us folks who love politics and talk about politics here, but I just wonder, as this thing gets worse, and you have so many people dying from this, we've topped 1 million cases statewide. That's a lot of people, and a lot of people who may think that that the governor could have handled this better, and it might be the kind of issue that could cost a political career. A lot of references to him online as being the empty suit governor. And I think one of the best examples of just how things have kind of gotten into a morass here is when it comes to virtual learning. You know, we have schools closing for days due to outbreaks. They have to claim it as a cold weather day virtually. They can't teach virtually. They have to just cancel class altogether because the virtual learning is not allowed. In fact, Governor Lee doubled down on that this week, saying there's just no path forward allowing schools to shift to virtual learning. Then on Wednesday of this week, Penny SCHWINN, who is the Commissioner for Education in Tennessee, says we must use these stockpile days I was telling you about. We just cannot pivot to remote learning, she said. And then the very same day, later in that day, she said there's nothing to stop individual schools to implement their continuous learning plans as long as it is not district-wide. Yet you have Shelby and Williamson and Franklin County schools asking lawmakers to intervene now because they're so upset with the executive order. They would like to at least be granted a limited number of virtual days. On the other hand, you have school districts like Collierville and Germantown, which somehow managed to be granted special permission to have virtual learning academies, so they're already covered. There's just such a hodgepodge of what's okay and what's not okay, and depending where you are and who you are, and it looks like there's no rhyme or reason notice. And you also mentioned the health commissioner as well, putting out more, you know, distracting information that isn't consistent in any way.
Absolutely, and remember, Williamson County is the governor's home county, and there are a lot of people over there who are upset. Richard, to your question about whether there's going to be political fallout from this, obviously, if you look at it today, you would think that Governor Lee should get reelected. But there are two factors here that could spell that he's in trouble. One is if the Democrats have enough money to press the case and to prosecute the case that this governor has been an abject failure in responding to the worst health crisis in this state's history. That's one thing. The second thing is the news media all over the state aggressively pressing this governor, not allowing him to hide and run and not answer questions about how he has performed in this case. It's not the media's responsibility to try to get him defeated, but it is the news media's responsibility to hold him accountable, ask him tough questions, not let him duck and dodge, and certainly if he loses this case here in Shelby County with the federal court case that we just got through talking about, that's another nail here. So yes, I think he is very vulnerable, and we'll see what happens going forward. The case, I mean, the campaign is really going to start in the next few months.
And Sam, he's also getting attacked to his right, or from his right as well. There could be challengers on that side too. What do you make of what Otis said?
Well, what I think is the governor and the way he's behaved, if I were to guess, and this isn't based on any reporting, but just observation, is the governor is far more worried about his right than he is his left. I think as Jason Martin, when he announced his campaign for the second, third time, when he had an event in Memphis this week announcing his campaign for governor, he acknowledged there's a gigantic vote gap that must be made up for a Democrat to win statewide. And I think that right now is the COVID surges and everything looks terrible. The case for Bill Lee, maybe for those who are going to vote on COVID, does not look very good. However, the general election is more than a year away from right now. Us humans have very short attention spans and very short memories. And I'm not certain that people are going to go to the polls thinking, you know, I'm going to vote against someone because of what happened with COVID. I don't know if we're going to look at this as voters like we would a war. And I think that's, you know, a very interesting thing. And I'd love to see more polling data.
Reverend Ken, there are a lot of Republicans I hear from who say they really are unhappy with the stance that a lot of their party leaders are taking. They feel that they are definitely approachable by the right kind of Democrat to vote for, and just don't know how much longer they want to be lumped in with the folks who are believing the conspiracy theories and everything else that apparently Governor Lee feels he has to cater to, whether he believes what he's doing or not.
Well, here's a chilling consideration. You use the word hodgepodge to describe it. I can think of some other adjectives that I can't repeat right now. But Tennessee did not just get to be a hodgepodge in terms of education administration from the state level. I'll say that first. Secondly, here's a chilling part of it. The people to the right of Governor Lee are very, very powerful, and they vote very, very strongly in this state. Just look, man, in the suburbs around Memphis, you see parents demonstrating and protesting, claiming they have the right not to wear masks. They have the right to send their children to school without masks on to endanger everybody else. My contention is that there are a whole lot of those on the far right voters who might be willing to unseat Governor Lee. And I'm not impressed with the Democrats so far because they haven't done that much better job at administrating education either.
You know, that's fair, Otis.
Yeah, that's very fair.
You know,
Absolutely.
Democrats wonder why they are you know, why there's a supermajority of Republicans and they can't seem to make any gains. They have not really impressed much in how they've responded so far.
No, statewide, Democrats know that they have been fighting a losing battle here for the last 9-10 years, and then they can't catch up in a situation like this. If there was ever an opportunity for Democrats to make some hay, this is it. I'm just not sure that they can do it. I think Ken is on track with that.
We're going to talk about something that's much happier when we come back, and that is the success of the Memphis Tigers. They had quite a week. We'll be right back.
So there you were, finally making some headway when the storm hit. That's when it's nice to know Speedy Cash is a good friend to have on a rainy day. Speedy Cash, we're here for you, online and in-store.
After an injury, you may be thinking, well, I'll just pass. But that pain can last for a lifetime, and a lifetime is a long time. Taking a piece of your health forever is a very big deal. Don't wait. Your time to bring a case is limited. All law firms are not the same.
We buy any car. We buy any car. We buy any car. Any.
Did you know trading in your car at a dealer could cost you money? A recent study found consumers who trade in their car pay an average of $990 more. So don't trade in. Sell it to We Buy Any Car. Learn more and get your free online valuation now at WeBuyAnyCar.com.
Find out how much your car's worth at We Buy Any Car.
Before you throw away those unused medicines, stop.
There are better ways to dispose of your unused meds to protect the ones you love.
To find a medicine disposal site near you, visit www.safe.pharmacy.
So there you were, finally making some headway when the whole landscape changes. That's when you can use an old friend like Speedy Cash, your bridge over troubled waters. Speedy Cash, we're here for you, online and in-store.
Well, between Reverend Whalum and Otis, I don't know who's the bigger Tiger fan between them, so I don't know who to go to first on this one. But Reverend Ken, I'm going to start with you. I should point out that Sam and I are Tigers fans too, just Missouri Tigers. But we're glad to see Memphis doing well. Reverend Ken, it's been quite a week. You just cannot deny between Imani Bates and Rasheed Wallace, Penny Hardaway's had quite a week.
One thing that I am certain of, and I would put money on this, is that the University of Memphis under Penny Hardaway is going to win a national championship. And if they don't, they will never be any closer than they are now. I have never seen a professional athlete like Penny Hardaway, who is so connected and so emotionally invested in this city. Man, I've never seen anything like it. Every time I talk to him, that's all he talks, man. And I'm very, very excited about that. And I hope we get to play Missouri for the championship.
I don't think there's any chance of that, but we'll hope for that as well. Otis, I know you're excited too.
Oh, absolutely. And again, you know, I work at the university, so I have a bias here. But there's excitement all over the place on the campus. You know, I talk to the president regularly, and he's as giddy as he can be. When you have national figures like Dick Vitale singing the University of Memphis praises, you have Jalen Rose, the ESPN analyst, saying that the Tigers are going to be in the national championship game. When you have star power like they have both on the court and on the sidelines with Larry Brown and Rasheed Wallace as assistants to Penny Hardaway, this is going to be a magical season, whether they win the championship or not, just with the national exposure. They'll be on television all over the place. And so, yes, this is an absolute phenomenal situation that has happened here, and Tiger fever is all over the place on campus and around town.
And I hate to be Debbie Downer here, but Sam, the NCAA is hanging out there, and people wondering, you know, are they going to ruin this dream season somehow?
I think that is the elephant in the room. It's not going to go away. We will see what happens. But to build off of what Otis just said about the national attention, there's a real upside to that for the city of Memphis, for the University of Memphis. Seeing, you know, the Missouri Tigers, my alma mater, on television made me go to the University of Missouri. It wasn't the journalism program. There are going to be so many kids that watch this Memphis team and say, Memphis is the place to be. And that's going to attract talent. And in the long run, that may be very good for the city of Memphis.
And with so much conversation about conference realignment, Reverend Whalum, that stuff starts to matter.
Well, it does, and I think that there's always been a regional bias toward the South generally, and particularly toward Memphis. I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's envy and jealousy or what it is, but I think there's the atmosphere with the instability caused by the SEC taking in Texas and Oklahoma and the other conferences merging together. I think there's an opportunity, and don't sleep on this point. The name, image, and likeness situation has brought to fore a lot of the NCAA's hypocrisy, and I think that case that they have against us just might be getting weaker instead of stronger.
Yeah, you're really going to penalize Memphis for something about a moving expense 2 years ago, when now kids are getting, we don't know how much, but we know there's a lot of money changing hands right now because of that name, image, and likeness ruling. All right, Ken, I'll let you have the last word. I got 20 seconds, 15 seconds.
Well, listen, if we are going to move this city, this county forward, we're going to have to be courageous. We're going to have to get our vaccines and support this lawsuit, this constitutional lawsuit against the governor. Send them letters, send them texts, send them emails, and let's do the right thing, man.
Okay, we'll leave it there. We'll take a break. We'll be right back.
DraftKings Sportsbook has same-game parlays for the NFL season.
Okay, even I can do that. So what should we do?
We take the underdog, the over, and both QBs over 300 yards. Smooth.
I like it.
No one still does that.
76% of people follow a fist bump with a boom.
Wrong football.
Hip, hip, parlay!
Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and feel the NFL action like never before.
No, not now.
Yeah, dude, that doesn't look good.
I know what to do.
What's that?
I'm going to cashnetusa.com. I can apply in minutes, and if approved, I can have the money as soon as the same business day.
Oh, nice save.
Saving the day is easy. With CashNet USA.
When you need money fast, be the hero. Go to cashnetusa.com to apply for the money you need now.
When things get hot, these three stay cool.
Touched a mango? Oh, I'm sorry. I was just napping a minute.
Hot Bench coming to Local 24 starting September 27th.
This is gonna change everything.
Paradise gets a whole lot hotter.
Surprise! We should all be scared the Bachelorette can have any man on this beach. Who would you recommend?
Bachelor in Paradise, new Monday and Tuesday on ABC.
We always like to hear from you about the show. Please weigh in by emailing me at rransom@localmemphis.com. That's rransom@localmemphis.com. My thanks to all my guests, you at home, and we'll see you next week for Local 24 This Week.